Now that the Democrats seem to be poised to get ejected from Congress, hopefully in record numbers, the divorcee Sam Seder, who used to crow a lot when Rush Limbaugh or anybody he didn't like, and by the way, Rush Limbaugh never paid any attention to Stan, but Stan paid more attention to Rush Limbaugh than he did his own marriage. He also pays more attention to Dave Rubin than he did his own marriage, but Dave Rubin knows who he is, but doesn't want anything to do with him because why debate an insane person? But anyways, Stan used to crow about Rush Limbaugh or anybody getting a divorce, and then, what was it, 5.5 years ago, Stan, your ex-wife said, I think you're going to live somewhere else. Well, anyways, kind of like Stan's marriage went down the toilet, and he knew it was. The Democrats know they're going down the toilet, so in a last-ditch effort, they're going to propose a tax hike because people who do pay taxes need to pay their fair share and quit taking advantage of people who don't pay taxes. But as Rush Limbaugh has mentioned, I thought I had a clip, and I wasted a lot of time searching for it. But anyway, you'll get the gist of it, where he's talking about it doesn't matter what the tax rates are. It's the spending, stupid, to amend a saying by James Carville. It's not the tax rates, it's the spending, stupid. They're going to spend the money whether they have it or not. Milton Friedman mentioned many times that Washington will burn through whatever you give them and then some, no matter what. I believe Thomas Sowell has mentioned this as well. So it doesn't matter what the tax rates are. The rich are just a scapegoat. So I'm going to read off real quickly and see the link in the video description, where this is inflation-adjusted spending. Keep this in mind. It's adjusted for fiscal year 2012 dollars. So this is all adjusted for inflation. Here's total federal spending. And when I read off what the federal spending is, it's per 100,000 employed civilians. So as the labor force participation rate has cratered since the 50s and 60s, you're going to see this spending go up. And there was a short reversal under Reagan. Under Obama, it accelerated, of course. And under Donald Trump, it was starting to turn around until COVID. But as we have more freeloaders, and Biden's letting in millions more freeloaders, you can see where this is going to go. He just wants voters, and a lot of them won't work because they don't want meritorious immigration. They want voters, and that's why California, Illinois, New York are in such a mess right now, because they do have a lot of people who were not born in this country who don't work. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have any immigration. I think it should be severely limited, as a lot of Americans do. Doesn't mean we have no immigration, but if you do, it has to be based on merit. Joe Biden doesn't want merit. Stan Seder doesn't want merit. That's why he's divorced. They want drones. They want a permanent underclass to secure victory for them. So you're going to see this in the numbers. Fiscal year 1962 through 1970, we spent $108.4 million per 100,000 unemployed civilians. Fiscal year 1978 through 81. Now keep in mind how high those tax rates were in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the spending went up, 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 up. Federal outlays per 100,000 employed civilians. 100,000 employed civilians, fiscal year 78 through 1981, $132.1 million, 21.889% increase from the previous time frame. Fiscal year 82 through 89, almost $143 million. Fiscal years 1994 to 2001, $1.46.2 million. So you can see that was a small increase. Now, Bill Clinton's top income tax rate, he even signed a capital gains rate reduction. His top income tax rate was nowhere near the 50s, 60s, or 70s, or even most of Reagan's presidency. So you can see how Bill Clinton was the last Democrat president, maybe the last Democrat presidential nominee that wasn't nuts. So you got almost $146.2 million per 100,000 employed civilians. By fiscal year 2002 through 2009, it had ballooned, and entitlements are a big problem. They are growing. Fiscal year 2002 through 2009, $175.4 million was spent by the federal government per 100,000 employed civilians. You can see how COVID made the labor force participation rate crater, and it's not recovering very quickly. This is all done by design. Fiscal year 2010 through 2017, that's Obongo, almost 205.5 million. That was over a 17% increase after adjusting for inflation from what it was under George W. Bush. 205.5 million federal dollars spent per 100,000 employed civilians. Pre-pandemic, that's fiscal years 2018 and 2019, it inched up slightly to $208.8 million per 100,000 employed civilians. Now, get ready for your heads to explode. Fiscal years 2020 through 2021, so there's a lot of Republicans that got in on this too because they were cowards, and they are cowards, most of them. 324.4 million. That is a 55.358% increase from the 2 fiscal years before the pandemic. Now, let's go to, this is mandatory federal spending. This does not include very little, there's a little defense spending included in mandatory, but most of it is in discretionary. So this is where you'll find Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, the entire welfare state, and a lot of this other garbage. Because I still run into Democrats, they think the defense budget's the largest thing in the budget. No. Mandatory federal spending adjusted for inflation per 100,000 employed civilians, fiscal years 1962 through 70, averaged a little over $31 million per 100,000 employed civilians. Fiscal years 78 through 81, it had ballooned to over 64.6 million. See how that was a 108% increase from the 1962 through 70 base period. So you can see how even before the evil Reagan tax cuts and the evil Reagan revolution, during these sky-high tax rates, they're going to spend the money whether they have it or not. And they didn't have all of it, but they're going to spend it anyway, and they did. Fiscal years 82 through 89, it had ballooned to over 74.9 million. Federal outlays per 100,000 employed civilians from fiscal years 94 through 2001, that's Bill Clinton, almost 90.9 million. Again, this is mandatory spending only. And you can see links under, and you can see exactly what this includes. Fiscal years 2002 through 09, almost 107.8 million. Fiscal years 2010 through 2017, almost 135.3 million, which was over a 25% increase from the Bush era after inflation. That is a massive increase. Fiscal years 2018 and 2019, the pre-pandemic, it was already up to a little over 145.8 million. And in fiscal years 2020 through 2021, it had ballooned to increased to almost 246 million. That's over a 68% increase from the 2 previous fiscal years. Almost 246 million mandatory federal dollars spent per 100,000 employed civilians, adjusting for inflation. So that's the spending that has grown at a breakneck pace. You always hear Bernie Sanders, I'll close with this, Bernie flaps his yellow teeth. Oh God, we got tax hike for the poor people and to spend money, we got to help people out, we got to pay for this. So I got news for you, and again, check the links from the 111th through 114th Congress. Old Yellow Teeth voted to add almost $5.8 trillion in new spending. From the 111th to 114th Congress, Yellow Teeth Bernie Sanders voted to add almost $5.8 trillion. That's counting anything he voted for, whether it passed or not. He didn't always get his way. And the sad thing is, there's a whole bunch of people in the Senate that are worse than him, and that's scary. Bernie's not even the worst. But almost that's during the Obongo years, $5.8 trillion in new spending. And he knew he didn't have the money for all that, but he doesn't care. So again, Rush Limbaugh's mentioned this point, Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, many people, they're going to spend it whether they have it or not. They're going to run massive deficits. Whether they have the money or not, they don't care. They're just trying to buy votes, and we're reaping the rewards of that. This is that inflation. I don't think they really care. I think they're trying to crash the economy. So there you go, folks. So when someone says, we need to raise taxes to pay for this, when have you actually ever paid for it? You haven't. So they don't care. Have a nice day, and don't thank me now for the bad news.